For Pacifica Radio, I'm Scott Baba. The Syrian government fell early Sunday in a stunning end to the 50-year rule of the Assad family after a sudden rebel offensive sprinted across government-held territory and entered the capital in 10 days. Syria's prime minister said today that most cabinet ministers are still working from offices in Damascus after rebels entered the capital over the weekend and overthrew President Bashar Assad. Streams of refugees crossed in from neighboring countries hoping for a more peaceful future. But there were already signs of the difficulties ahead for the rebel alliance, now in control of much of the country. Israel said it is carrying out airstrikes on suspected chemical weapon sites and long-range rockets to keep them from falling into the hands of extremists. Israel has also seized a buffer zone inside Syria after Syrian troops withdrew. In northern Syria, Turkey said Allied opposition forces seized the town of Manbij from Kurdish-led forces backed by the United States. A reminder that even after Assad's departure to Russia, the country remains split among armed groups that have fought in the past. The Kremlin said Russia has granted political asylum to Assad, a decision made by President Vladimir Putin. Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov declined to comment on Assad's specific whereabouts and said Putin was not planning to meet with him. Attention now turns to Abu Muhammad al-Golani, the militant leader who led the insurgency against Assad's government and heads the rebel alliance now in control of much of the country. Karen Chamis has more.
Abu Muhammad al-Julani, also more recently known by his given name, Ahmad al-Shara, the militant leader who led the stunning insurgency that toppled Syria's President Bashar al-Assad, has spent years working to remake his public image and that of his fighters. He renounced long-time ties to al-Qaeda and depicts himself as a champion of pluralism and tolerance. The extent of that transformation from jihadi extremist to would-be state builder is now put to the test. The 42-year-old al-Julani is labelled a terrorist by the United States. He has not appeared publicly since Damascus fell early Sunday, but he and his insurgent force, Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, stand to be a major player in whatever comes next. I'm Karen Chamas.
Meanwhile, tens of thousands of people held in Syria's notorious prisons have been freed. Human rights groups, whistleblowers, and former detainees say torture has been systematic, while secret executions have been reported at more than 20 sites run by Syrian intelligence. Among those released was Bashar Bashoum, a writer who was due to be executed on Sunday. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is set to testify for the first time in a trial against him on corruption allegations. His testimony is expected to start Tuesday and last weeks as Israel fights its war in Gaza. The Israeli leader faces charges of fraud, breach of trust, and accepting bribes in 3 separate affairs. Prosecutors say Netanyahu exchanged regulatory favors with media titans for favorable press coverage. They say he also advanced the personal interests of a billionaire Hollywood producer in exchange for lavish gifts. Netanyahu denies wrongdoing. The trial began in 2020, and a verdict is not expected until at least 2026. South Korea's Justice Ministry imposed an overseas travel ban on President Yoon Suk-yeol as authorities investigate allegations of rebellion and treason linked to his brief martial law declaration last week. The opposition's impeachment bid against Yoon failed Saturday after lawmakers from his People Power Party walked out of the vote, prompting accusations of complicity in insurrection. On Sunday, People Power Party leader Han Dong-hoon announced Prime Minister Han Duck-soo would assume government duties until Yoon eventually stepped aside. But South Korea's opposition accused the governing party today of staging a second coup by clinging to power and refusing to impeach Yoon. Democratic Party floor leader Park Chung-dae said that the deal to let the president remain in office while delegating his powers to the prime minister and the unelected People Power Party leader is a, quote, blatant constitutional violation with no legal basis. President-elect Donald Trump has announced that he's appointing one of his defense attorneys in the New York hush money case as counselor to the president. Alina Habba defended Trump earlier this year, also serving as his legal spokesperson. Habba has been spending time with the president-elect since the election at his Florida club Mar-a-Lago. In Trump's first term, the position of counselor was held by Republican strategist Kellyanne Conway. Habba frequently accompanied Trump on the campaign trail and was one of the speakers at the late October rally in New York's Madison Square Garden. I'm Scott Baba for Pacifica Radio.